Yay, we are here. Second day in a row. How about that? Happy Thursday. Be your own trendsetter. Today, I'm looking forward to this topic. I am Lynn Serrano, and you are?
I'm Brian Kelm. Happy to be
Hey,
here.
hey, Brian, welcome back.
Yeah.
This was awesome. We actually decided this, right after a show yesterday.
Yeah. We,
It, it,
we flushed it out a little bit, but, in terms of what we want to present and whatnot, but I think it's very poignant yesterday.
yeah, because it is picking up from yesterday, first we were calling it like, what were we saying at first, and then I came up with that the difference or whatever,
Oh,
making
it's
your
challenging the status quo
yeah.
was my initial thought because I don't like the status quo, average, mediocrity, whatever words that would encapsulate. Anybody that is with us is likely a big dreamer and somebody up to big things. I don't. I don't think we would attract people or have supporters or viewers that were not up to big things in life or wanted to create big things. And mediocrity is in status quo, just like what everybody else is doing. You'll survive, but it's not going to do much more than that in life.
So, that's right. Hi, Tracy.
And you really have to make a concerted effort day by day to do your own thing. You have to commit to it for a long time, and you don't know where it's going to go, but you know it's on your terms. So it's a very fascinating topic, but it's not for everybody, and that's okay. But don't expect big things from doing what everybody else does.
Exactly. Or not do.
Right.
Because, just like the stock market or something, if you're in the markets and whatever, and you're like, everybody's following the trend and they're buying and selling, and you're like, I'm just going to just stay where I'm at. I mean, it's okay to
go ahead.
No, go ahead. We have a delay.
No, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine.
It's like everybody's talking about Tesla right now, where it's like $800 a share. I don't want to hear about those people that missed out on it when they could have bought it for $40 a share. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, right?
Mm-hmm.
You live and you learn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I live my life in status quo. Anybody that I run into where, and usually there's a common thing where they're either a victim or they say they can't do in life or some variation of those kinds of, communication through language. I just want to walk away because I don't live my life in that realm. And now, could it be could it be a near-death experience that created that? Perhaps, but I've always been an achiever. I've always been the person that'll stand up and do something even though I'm going to be laughed at, right? It's nothing new for me. Kind of like creating a wedding from nothing or a corporate event, is that people have certain understanding about what they deem is such, right? Now, hey, Julie, what's up?
I will.
At the same time, it's like, okay, where is the possibility in that? Where is something new in that? And it's the greatest opportunity, but it's also the biggest struggle because you challenge yourself. Hey, Helen's here. She's
Hi, Helen.
That you challenge yourself at the same time, and you're wondering, like, am I doing this right? Am I the only one that thinks this way? I think that's why, because of what we're coming out of over the past years, that's why masterminds are becoming so prevalent, is because you unite people that think alike and they make that their world. But this is such a big topic, and even you're going to face criticism and people that may not understand what you're up to. You're going to do that every part of life. So why would you be held back by something that truly speaks to your heart?
I'm just laughing because I did try to. This is just a girl thing, but like my bangs, the straight. Hi, there's Mr. Liplock. Hi, Scott. But like my hair is just wilting. Like the hair straightener doesn't even work. Like whatever. But trendsetting, one thing I found a lot, innately we when we're young, before we get corrupted or before everything changes and you follow, you're a sheep in school and all these different things, when you realize that you just drown out the voices. And by 6th grade, I drowned out a lot of voices. And, and I even graduated a year early because I just I just had to do that. And I mean, a lot of challenges, but one thing I remember is that I didn't listen to anything or anyone because I was driven to just get the hell out of school and be successful at whatever I did. I've always just been successful at whatever I put my mind to. And that's pretty much what it is, and then life happens, of course. But one thing I realize is that it is all about trend setting, you being the trendsetter of your own missions, your own things, your own way of what you feel comfortable or passionate or compelled to get done. And it's not going to be for everyone else, but definitely trending. Trends have to start somewhere, just like they end somewhere.
Correct.
So that's where you can be that part of the equation, is you can be the own trendsetter, because when people realize, wait a second, everyone's conformed to this, but you're doing something different. And, I was known at school as being the one that always said to hi to everybody, even if I didn't know them. And I knew everybody's name and things like that. I mean, I was the only kid that ever had a hall pass 24/7 in this high school. I mean, I ran the school. I took care of a lot of stuff. I mean, they just let me be me. And it was just great. And everybody's like, who the hell she thinks she is? And it's just I had no time. I got along with everyone, but I had no time for anyone, pretty much is what happened. And so I made my own thing. And even after I graduated early and went summer school purposely 2 times to graduate, they even stopped kids from doing that. Because they're like, they're like, wait a second, we can't make everybody do this, or, what are we going to do? But anyways, it just all comes down to, if you want to elevate to a certain level, you need to have expectations and move forward. And, yeah, I did have a hall pass always, but I was getting shit done though.
I always get the detention pass. Oh.
Yeah. Well, I can't say I haven't been in school suspension either, but that's for another time. So that's actually one of them. Is it actually two of them in my book, actually. I talk about that stuff. So yeah. But again, I was principal's patent stuff. So
and here's the thing: is that when we look at trends and trend setting, there's going to be a meaning we attach to it. Celebrities, somebody did something that was dumb. You could go on all the different social media sites and just type in and even find out, depending on what it is, what's trending, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's trending in a good way or trending in a way that is done for the right reasons or for humanity, right? It could be dumb things, or people just know how to get into the media, but they're framed in such a way. So it's you have to start with your definition of a trend. And so is that I'm not a big follower of trends. I know that there is trends like wedding industry, fashion, but that's the majority, right? When we look at research, it's that's overarching, you know, but that doesn't mean it applies to everybody. Right?
No, but even in my lingerie business and stuff, I mean, I didn't follow the trends, but you bet your ass I stayed in contact and know what everybody else is talking about. Good example. I was really into my business when the 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. Did I want to read those books? No. But I had to read those books because people were asking for whips and chains and shit. And I had to know what cereal, I had to learn BDSM. I had to learn all this stuff. I mean, shoot, I even went to swinger sites just to see what swingers, how their mentality was. I mean, I had to do that to understand the industry and what I was doing and these kinds of things. Would I follow the trends? No, I couldn't even pretend that I was a swinger. I mean, I couldn't even get my shit out of there, So, I got to watch what I'm saying. My niece is on there. Cool. You'll have to video chat with Dad later. So anyways, so the gist what I'm saying is you don't need to follow everything you hear or know, but you should know about it, because as we talk about, you got to get the right perspective. You can't just assume, well, you can't have the horse blinders on to where you're going and not knowing everything else going, because you can learn so much from that as well.
I also think too is that you can't be you can't be a fly by night. And what I mean by that is not that you're not experienced or you have expertise in something, is that you can't hop, skip, and jump from everything to everything and be different things to different people. It doesn't work that way, right? Look at your business model if you're in business, right? It's like you have to finesse your way into all these different, you don't know who you serve, right?
No, that's why market research is very important. And that is why you need to be very open-minded and see the bigger picture and to see why people are trending or interested in that, and then curtail to the way that you think is best, because everything in this life is copycat. Everything.
Yep.
Everything, somebody's already done it, I mean,
And in my opinion, is that there's always buzzwords that come out. Like in my industry, it's experience, right?
Mm.
Now, I know people, I don't know them personally, but the people that grab a hold of those buzzwords and they'll redo all their marketing and branding as if those words are going to make them stand out upon other people. However, is that they have to explain what that is and then they have to deliver it. Now, if they don't know what that is and they're just taking it off of some site or whatever, God bless them. But I want them to run a customer like, what does that mean?
Well,
what I mean? What does an experience mean to you? How do you deliver that to your customers? How do you deliver that to the guests? Right.
Well, that's
I love
why
those questions, because it's like a deer in headlights moment.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think we have a delay. I'm sorry, Brian, if I just spoke over you, but that's why I think people are not finding that attraction marketing and being authentic and raw and real is what's important, and it allows you to actually see your personality to see if it clicks with people, because people are pissed off with the same. I mean, you get 50 years old and you hear the same shit. Oh, big sale, one day only. And then the next day you're like, oh, extended one big sale today only. I mean, or a bill collector. And I used to be a bill collector. I'm not going to lie, back in the day, these people that would collect next to me would say shit like, oh, I'm going to have the sheriff over there at your house and they're going to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and what the hell you think's going to happen when it comes tomorrow and the sheriff ain't there? You going to get them to collect next month so you can make your bonus check for the month? No, let's be real, people. People are tired of that. That's why authenticity and trending to be who you are, you're sticking out. People are so tired of the same thing being, continuously.
Well, and I think that, people might disagree with this, is that I would rather take a niche over a mass appeal, like you're just splattering your message, right? I mean, I would rather find my niche than to just put it out to anybody, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't offer commodities, right?
No, I mean, you make a funnel system where you find people that might be interested. If you like dogs, you like dogs. If you like this, you like that. If they're in the wedding, then they're their wedding. I mean, and you funnel it down to where then you start doing the process elimination, because obviously Brian's not going to want to talk to an 80-year-old person that's never had any kids about weddings. So he has to funnel it down. Weddings? Do you know any weddings? Do you have friends that are getting married in the senior citizen home? Whatever. You have to get those trigger words and things, for what's trending. And then you bring it down to the core, to who your customer is.
I also think too is that a trend is something, at least when I think of a trend, it's something that's here and then it's gone, right? Like chocolate fountains is a perfect example. 1 minute they're in and everybody's buying them all up and doing all that, and then you can buy them at any box store for $39 on the shelf. You know what I mean? And
right.
That's where a trend, when we look at it on the macro, that would be that. But when you're looking at trend, if it's you that is the one that's creating it, and you have the voice and you have the light that is shining bright, that is something to speak for, versus letting marketing, social media create it for you, and then you're just on the bandwagon.
No, but
there's two differences there.
I mean, I'm a marketer and I help people market their business, but I will tell you this, that people are tired of, thinking that they should be loyal to a person just because they know them. If you're not going to have prices, there's a thing called Amazon and you can get your shit like the next day. Okay. So with that being said, do you want to at least make $2 off of that, or do you want them to hit the Amazon buy now? I mean, this is where it sucks now, because people don't realize that people do have options. And when they think that you're weaseling and you're not being upfront and saying, hey, Brian, you could buy this from me for $5. I know you could get it at Amazon for 3. This is the cost I can make or whatever, at least talk about the elephant in the room and be more authentic. It goes such a long way because everyone's just tired of the old way of advertising and marketing doesn't work anymore. And some of the new ways don't work, except unless you stick out for being you.
The issue I see in that, though, is that people are so consumed with that, is that when somebody shows up different and they do something different, right? When they inquire more information, or it's like, yeah, I'd like to give you a range of fees, help me understand you more, right? Tell me a little bit more about you, right? Oh my God, if they think that that's different, okay. But there's a reason why people show up differently and they serve different audiences when it comes to niche, high touch service industries, right? It's like, if it's a commodity, yeah, sure, Amazon it, right?
Right.
That's in our culture now. People are in a store and they're like, ooh, they'll do it without even thinking about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the difference is that what you want is not what you're open to. Perhaps you want authenticity, but you don't know when it shows up because it's different, it's new. Your stomach might be telling you something different because it's so infrequent that when it actually shows up, it's like when somebody actually wants to get to know you on the biggest day of your life, God forbid, right?
Oh, Brian, I'm not to interrupt you, but keep talking because I just got to take care of something.
Okay.
I got to be right back, you guys. Okay. Be right back.
Yeah, so I mean, trend setting, it's you have the trend, but what we're advocating in this for everybody that's watching this, that big dreamers, big thinkers, people up to big things in the world, is that hopefully we're already past the point of people, like we care about what people think, or if it's going to be agreed upon by everybody, right? When you're be the trendsetter, be the person that is doing the work. But the difference I see versus what people deem a trend is that it's out real quick. If it's something that you believe with all your heart, that's where you want to go, or you want to put your resources like time and effort, there should be nothing wrong with that. So Lynn, what I was just sharing with everybody is whatever you're up to in the world.
Jerry, actually right, but there was by the time I opened the door, there was a lot of smoke. My dad had covers on his stove thing, and he didn't realize he turned it on, and there was smoke. But I thought it started smelling fire here, so I was like, I gotta go. But everything's okay. Anyway, so yeah, that's what's not the smell I want. Not when I've lived in had a house fire before, so I had to go. Thank you. So back to what you're saying.
What I was saying is that for anybody that's up to big things and whatnot, is that you have to take the gavel, you have to take the torch, and you have to make it happen, right? The difference between a traditional trend is it comes in and then it fizzles away. And then in the future, it might come back in, But if it's something that goes to your heart and you're willing to fight for, and it embodies what you're up to, a movement, a hobby, a whatever, a business that you want to create, is that you have to be the one to lead the way. Now, don't expect any agreement. Don't expect anybody to understand it. Eventually they will, if you stay in there long enough.
And that's just it. You got to be product of the product. And it's funny because I did the best I could with, I wasn't when I started my business, it wasn't, my personal relationship wasn't that great. And I had to rely on customers having a great time because I couldn't have fun with some of the products or whatever. But, then you live among your testimonies of your customers, right? And then, and you love that and you take care of those customers because they keep telling you. But the point I'm saying there is that if you no matter what you're doing, if you're not a product of the product or you don't believe what you're doing, it really does show. And it doesn't matter what you do, but if your personality sucks, it's going to suck and everybody's going to know. There's no coming back from that. And so transcending it to me is just being vulnerable and being honest, but not being an asshole. I mean, if you're an asshole, what do you expect? I mean, that's all I can say.
Well, and when you're a trendsetter, you don't waver. You go all in on, it's just like playing poker or any cards game with high stakes. You're going all in on whatever it is. Now, let's be clear. The trend is the thing. The trendsetter is somebody that buys that thing, right? And it's like, depending on what it is, it could be just fly by night. Hey, there's this new thing. Like I've had wedding professionals of new services reach to me and they're like, hey, if you want to run this by your prospective customers or your customers to have me come in and do this thing. I'm like, okay, first of all, we need to get back from the pandemic, right? Extra services. I think that's a little, it could, will people buy it? Perhaps, sure. But I think that they want to be certain that their wedding's even going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like for them to invest money into things that they might be a priority. I don't think they will, but I'm like, I can't see that approach where it's like, hey, here's this new thing. I don't want to be that salesy guy because that's not what I do,
No. Well, I hear you. It's just like me writing this book. I have more people telling me, Lynn, I want to write a book. And I'm like, well, you can do it and blah, blah, blah. And, and I'll probably end up with a little group and helping people just to inspire them or whatever. But, such is life. I mean, truly, I'm in awe of the fact that, people put themselves out there with all this education and all this stuff they learned, and then they're trying to reteach because, it's invest, learn, and teach, right? And then redo yourself. But I think you do a disservice when you think that you learn that with the intentions of, remaking money for what you learned, but to actually use what you learned before you try to teach anybody else. Right. I mean, it's like, if you're not living or walking that walk and you can't see it, then why are you even doing it? Right. Like people, I mean, Tracy, she's on here and she's always like, Lynn, I just need you in my life. You help me coach. And a few other people say that, but I'm just me. I can't, they do the work. I'm just kind of like Christopher Rausch, which I think the 29th, I'm going to be on his show. I was in a show January 21st this year, and it's taken since January for my next show with him. But, he's a no excuse kind of guy. And that really is the, we're in this life trying to trend set our own life so that you have some kind of peace of mind, right. And letting go everything that we're our biggest enemy. And I just wish that we would just realize that, put that aside and go. I realize I am such an introvert. People have no idea. I really get out of my zone. And one thing I do like about my dad, even though there's a lot of triggers, I mean, he's from old school. He remembers me from being thin and before all my health issues. So, he pretty much told me, the only way you're going to get that fat off of you is liposuction. I mean, like, he's just whatever. But I realize that he just cares about me and he just thinks that's what I need to do. But I say all that to say this. The point is that I am going to be me and I'm going to get things done the way I can right now. And that's the only way anything's going to ever change is if the people have the desire to do it for themselves. Right. And if they don't, it's not going to get done.
Well, anybody that's up to big things, they have no idea what is driving them forward, where it's going to end up.
No, but they're
okay with that.
Yeah, but they have to focus on where they're going to go and what they want to do. And I just know that people always ask me, how do you always do this? And how do you always do that? You don't want to know because you're not going to do what it takes. You're not going to do what it takes. I guarantee you're not going to do what it takes. So there's all these answers in these books that can help people. They read them, but they never do nothing with them.
Right. Well, I think that people spread themselves too thin. It's because I know plenty of people where it's like, the basic things. I mean, and everybody's got their own journey and part of life. I mean, where they want to be in business, but it's like, I want to be an expert in a couple things and do those very well and make that my world versus spread myself so thin that it's like, I got my finger and thumb in all these different places, but it's like, but then when the marketplace reacts, what am I getting calls for? What are people requesting my expertise on? I only want to have it be about a couple things, because if it is not about those couple things, then what I'm projecting in the marketplace is different than what I want it to be. Right. And I think a lot of people is that when trends come out, I mean, in the tech industry and in the wedding industry, I mean, fashion comes out 6 months, 9 months before the new year. Right. There's usually 2 shows every year. There's one in April and one in the fall in New York City, right? And then obviously the hot spots, it goes to Los Angeles, it comes to Chicago, you know, and I mean, obviously technology, right?
Mhm.
You got CES, you've got NAMM, these other, you know, electronics and consumer electronics and professional audio gear and all these types of things. They come out, but it doesn't replace what's already there, right? And I think that that's why a lot of people in my industry, at least, it's almost like they I don't know, it's like they have to give up everything that they created in order to, you know, in the propaganda, marketing of it, the branding of it is very great because it's like, ooh, you know, if you're in the least bit vulnerable, they already got you roped in because, ooh, if you had this thing, your wedding season would be so much better.
Yeah, wedding industry is like all the holidays. It's all commercial,
Correct.
you know. So,
Well,
eh,
I mean, anything that is in a you know, and wedding professionals don't like when I say this, but it's, you know, I could say so much about the outcome, the impact. If it doesn't impact your wedding, don't invest money in it. You know, if it's not something you envision throughout the whole planning process, that it's like that I want my guests to be talking about, right? Non-biasly, you're not asking them. It's just things that they want to generally share with you. If it's not something that you want them to be saying, don't invest a lot of money in it. Period.
yeah.
And the wedding industry does not want to hear that because it goes against all the other, you know, everybody jockeying for their piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I
You know?
spent $24.95 on a wedding planner book for my daughter for her wedding. And she did her wedding. It was very nice. And you couldn't believe she did it all by herself in 3 months,
Mhm.
you know, and she worked on it and, you know, and it was a great venue. But again, there's, you know, it's just like a roadmap. There's so many ways to get to grandma's house. It's just which way are you willing to go to get there? Time, money spent, whatever.
Well, and let's look at it on the macro level. Let's take all the little nuances that a hotel might get wrong, for instance, right? Or my girlfriend's uncle, you know, they invested in a resort. They moved and they invested in a resort. It's like, okay, they're dealing with operations, employees, the whole deal, right? Everything from ownership. Now, are they able to see everything? No. You know, is somebody, you know, it's kind of like like an artist. You know, you got a whole bunch of people, spectators looking at a painting, right? Number the artist knows what it took to get there. They knew how long it took to get them to get there, and they can see the imperfections. They see what's missing, right? Of somebody that's just watching it or looking at it, they're just embodying it. They're looking at it, right? And so what I'm getting at is that look for the nuances, look for what's missing, right? And you can make it. I mean, there's almost a close to $1 trillion company out there right now in cash flow, right? Apple, okay, and it's based on one word: simple. The entire business out of how they can take technology and make it simple. Now, I am biased. I love Apple products, but it's like for them to hold on to that even through the passing of Steve Jobs and Wozniak over one word: simple. And they have not moved away from it, right? Like any other business, they've had trials and tribulations, right? But they stayed focused and committed to what they're about, and they didn't stray from it, right? No matter the marketplace, no matter their customers, they stayed focused on it. So that's the difference, in my opinion, is that if you're the trendsetter, it goes deeper than just fly by night thing that might be in the tabloids or, you know, on search.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up simple because I simply did something, and here's my dad.
Yeah.
My cousin was in Puerto Rico, and that's my dad's sister, and we decided to do video chat. But you know what? They do old school. They get their flip phones out. They don't have home phones. They get the flip phones out,
Yep.
and they talk. You know, they don't. My dad gets texts, and he don't even read them. You know, he goes, CVS says I got prescription because, you know, they got his phone number, they do it, but he never opens it, you know, that kind of stuff. He doesn't listen to voicemail there. He calls me back and goes, did you call me? Did you leave me message? You know, kind of thing. He leaves it simple. You know, he does not want, my brother tried to get him a new smartphone. He does not want a freaking smart. Well, I mean, he could get pictures with his phone, but he doesn't, like, he don't want to deal with any of that stuff. You know, for some reason, or for eh, people do find life simpler when they keep it simple, you know? And just like I decided to come here, and this is my studio here at my dad's house. I brought all my stuff. A green screen that I never usually use, but I got that here. I mean, you know, you do what you want to do to make life simpler, you know, but it's, you can trend whatever you want to do, but you know, it should innately be something natural to you in whatever. When you can't form a new habit, like where you put the keys, you know, like we have habits of how we put the keys, how we park, you know, it gets to a point where you don't even know how you drove from home to work or whatever. You know, if you ask yourself, was that a green light or how did I get here? I mean, you're just on autopilot, but autopilot's good if you're trend setting to make your path and your way.
Well, and see what your dad is going through, you know, and what your dad has committed to is a classic example of what we're talking about today. Is that he's committed that he wants to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, things that are there to disrupt it would be peer pressure, technology, voicemail, notices, reminders,
But
all of that.
but
But it's bouncing off.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what though, he was fixing something in the yard, and the blade cover came off of his saw. He tried to do something else. Anyways, he cut his leg and was bleeding all over.
Ooh.
He had his freaking cell phone in the house. He had to yell, and a neighbor had to come over with a towel and call the ambulance and everything. I bitched him out. You got a cell phone, you're supposed to keep that on even when you're weed whacking outside. You know, so again, he's like, it takes those things for him to see the value. Just like back in the day, he didn't want to voice an answering machine. But then when he could hear his grandkids, whenever he wanted, and pray the button, oh, it was the best thing next to sliced bread. So, I mean, sometimes you got to realize what you're trending is doing you more disservice and less havoc in your life than to, you know, ask for more help or, you know, farm something out or whatever. I mean, you've got to really see the big picture, which life is always evolving. So things, you know.
Well, a trend should be on your terms. It should be based on your life and what's important to you. And if you're not asking for permission of other people that they support it or they live that, you know, they acknowledge it as well. You're not, when you're creating a trend on your own, you're doing it because it's in your heart, you know. And it's like, if people don't understand it, that's okay, but it should not disempower you from doing it. Right. There's a lot of people that don't understand me in business. I'll be completely honest with you, because I think a certain way. I come at the wedding industry from a performance standpoint, from outcome, production, right? Acting, theater. I don't come at it from dollars and cents, right? And I think that's where a lot of people, you know, they'll promise the world as long as they get the check, but then they have absolutely no idea how they're going to fulfill upon everything, right?
Right.
Their customer relationships might be very distant at best, right?
Well, and I think that's why your niche is going to be great, as far as when you do get your book out and you can have people understand to a degree, you know, like hopefully it's not going to be too like Atlas Shrugged, 1,200 pages, but and I read that book, by the way, but what I was going to say is, you know, if you have something small and concise where people get to know what page you're on, you can really use that as a tool to share with people so that you can get out your philosophy in the way you do things. And so I think people need to understand where you're coming from. I know that I've been misunderstood all my life for one thing or another. You know, and I am from Long Island, and I do have a sassy attitude sometimes.
No.
Even my kids that are 30 years old, they don't understand my sarcasm. They're like, "Mom, you're being rude right now." What? I expect my service a certain way. This is, you know, if you're and those kinds of things. But I'm like, I articulate myself cut dry sometimes, and that's it. But you know what? Anybody knows me, gets to know my heart first, that it wasn't easy for me to say what I had to say, but I'll say it anyways, kind of thing, and so I'm always doing the clause, well, don't take this personal, but I just got to say it this way. And then I say it, because I just don't know any other way to say it, but to say
one
it.
Of the, one of the biggest trends in the industry right now is automation, right? Quicker, faster, easier, they, to me, nothing but problems, Now, obviously that's like a macro view. Now, can you have automation in any business? Sure you can, right? I don't think it's cut and dry that as soon as somebody gets in your pipeline, just blast them full of a bunch of emails that may or may not be pertinent.
No, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because I have been I've had many many lingerie booths at wedding venues. Yep. And the fact that at the end of the show, they give you an Excel spreadsheet. Yep. Here's your spam list. And these people, when you call them, even if they got on your own little list, they're just tired of freaking being bombarded, even if you're there to help them. I mean, they realize that they're just cattled into, and they're poked and prod, Yep. Hi, Larry.
Hey, Larry. Mr.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
So, it really is, that's one of the things I didn't like about being at the show, really. But then people that needed to find me or get connected. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things though, that people don't, I mean, you've been to wedding venues, right? Those girls come in with mailing labels for all the drawings you're giving them back, and they slap that stuff on your stuff. I call them swoopers.
I call them swoopers. Oh, yeah.
So, I'm just saying, so, and it is a lot to do a wedding venue or whatever. It's like, damn if you do and damn if you don't there, kind of thing. But, I've spent $800, $1,000 for 3-hour show. I mean, I've been there, done that, man.
Yeah. The biggest part of that trend that I have a problem with is that, and this is something that's going to be in one of my books, is that, okay, brides and grooms have never done this before, so they don't know how the process can be. They just know what they've seen and how many people do it the same way. That's why somebody that does it differently, i.e. they want to get to know you and have a conversation, see if there's a connection and engagement, right? Oh my God, this guy wants to get to know us.
And it's funny because I've almost been tempted a few times to actually have my non-traditional, unconventional, actually produce my own wedding shows and have them where, okay, you bitches ain't getting a mailing list. You got to earn their email from themselves. How do you like that one? Like, what? Right. I mean, like it people should be treated differently now is what it comes down to.
Well, and here's the thing is that it's my biggest gripe about that is in the customer's outcome. Mm-hmm. How does the customer know that they're going to be fully taken care of and they don't get a mock wedding? What I mean by that is that they're not able to see if that person's going to fulfill upon everything prior to it happening in real time.
Right.
Period.
Well, it's the same thing for photographers, wedding photographer. You don't know if they're going to be able to capture those pictures or not. And yeah, their resume may show you one or two of their best photography things, but that still doesn't constitute that your wedding picture is going to be the best. Mm-hmm.
And so from a customer standpoint, it's like, okay. And then if you're not on the same page with your wedding professionals, it doesn't get any easier on wedding day.
Yeah.
It gets a lot worse.
Yeah. So
and it's like, is it the customer's fault or the vendor's fault? Well,
yeah.
I think that, nobody wants to be educated, right? I whenever I see that in my industry, you just got to educate your customers. Okay, let me ask you a question. If I told you to read this book and you don't want to read the book, would it really help you? No. It's got to be something you want to do. Like there's a reason why, and is that going to come better in a drip way of doing it with one idea or one thought or something without any mention of a sale? Or is it going to come from here's my frickin' presentation full of keynote slides that's going to bore the heck out of you? No, just have a conversation with me. Are you going to screw up my wedding or not? Right?
Listen, I'd love to know the statistics on an introvert, but I'm gonna call us introverts out and say this. You know what? We YouTube a lot. We Amazon a lot. We self-educate ourselves. Yep. and and I'm an empath too, so I understand a lot of people have junk and garbage. I just don't want their junk and garbage to empathize with. So I just find that, to go off the beaten path. And again, it's sad, but that's how that is. And I'm sure that there's like 50% of the people are extroverts that get out of their comfort zone because they got to live, they got to get out or whatever. But again, the trend setting is showing that you're going to do things the way you want to help other people. And when you want to help other people, it does really help yourself.
Well, I mean, a huge trend. Talk to people before you talk to people before you mention anything about business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Show an honor, help people first, right? Help them buy. That doesn't, you don't have to show people your brochure and all this other nonsense. More than likely, they're not going to invest time with you if they didn't like what they saw online or some means,
Yeah, you need general interest and conversation. And I appreciate more when I'm in a venue, no matter what it is. And we're talking, could be RV show, it could be the hunting show, it could be wedding show, whatever. Okay. I love more when someone has a booth and welcomes me there and says, "Hi, how you doing? If you need help, let me know." Absolutely. And leave them alone. I will take their freaking card.
Yep.
What? But hey, so hi, what's your name? What's your name? Oh, you want this? You want the free drawing over here, right? When you obviously can see that right next to my head it says free drawing, so it's not like I can't see it. And I mean, it's those kinds of things, And then there's the people that come in and don't talk to you, but they put their thing in because they just want the drawing. That's great, whatever. So do your good giveaways the best way you can. But all I can say is, the minute that you treat people the way you want to be treated, you forget you're also a consumer, and you're also people just don't look at the mirror. Everything we throw out there is back to us. And I mean, it really, you can trend anything. You can be your own person if you just realize you got to be more of what you want. And that's just not a cliche anymore, people. Right. It's just the truth. It just,
well, I mean, with any big purchase, how many people buy a big purchase without having some contact or some engagement with somebody that's going to sell them something? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The bigger the purchase, the more you probably want, from the people that are selling it. Reassurance, mm-hmm. peace of mind, somebody that's sharing a million ideas with you, whatever it is.
But again, we do definitely have Google. We have YouTube. We have all these things that people, Amazon, we have all these things for reviews and all these things that we don't need to be personable anymore. That's the honest truth.
Right.
But when you have a problem at the airlines, if you bought it as a third-party app, they tell you it's the third-party app. If you go to a hotel.com and you go ahead and book there and you have a problem at the hotel, they go, "Sorry, we can't cancel it. You'll have to call hotels.com." Right. So I'm telling you, whatever industry, you got to realize, like Brian has said before, either quantity or quality. If you want to bypass and do a third party and not go with somebody that can humbly help you, they're not passing the buck. They're sincerely saying they have a contract with such and such, and they just can't cancel or modify your thing. It has to go through the third party.
Right.
And so those are things that, you can do the cheap way out, or you can do what's going to, get you the best deal.
Well, and it's like, what is this purchase for? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that reserves me, they're not reserving me for wedding planning.
No. And all I'm saying is we've got to realize with the whole trend setting, and I think there was a couple things we wanted to touch on this, Brian. And we did. Okay. But the trending is really important for you to ask yourself, when you hear something, how do you feel about it? How does that make me feel? What do I think about it? I was the kind of girl that I was so busy into learning this and that I never got into Grey's Anatomy or all these different TV shows back in the day that everybody would watch. Instead, I got Netflix now. I can binge on a show and be whatever. I rather wait till a series comes out for 2 or 3 years before, like I just saw Yellowstone, and I'm excited that it comes out on Sunday, like you said.
Apparently,
But
I had somebody tell me that it's supposed to, but there hasn't been any official, even though I got a graphic or something, but apparently it's
but
not official that it's coming out on Sunday.
yeah. So, all I'm saying is these are trends that are going on and people are talking about. I don't listen to trends that way. I wait till the hoopla goes down. Like I never saw what is it? Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Have you?
My girlfriend got me in a season of it, and she initially said, "Hey, I just give it 3 or 4 episodes, and here we're at the end of season 1, and
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I haven't even checked that out. Like I don't like to go on trends like that. But trends that, might make my life easier, or, when new models of things come out, there's always flaws and then there's always updates. So, for me, the way I handle trends or how I'm going to do things, I don't mind that, the first person's going to run a race and they break the 1 mile. Okay, they did it. Okay, a couple people do it. When I have a little statistics and stats sometimes, then I can make that trend and make that something I want to pick up. It doesn't mean that if a trend's going totally in, you don't need to follow that trend to a point where you're bobbling right into the whole damn pack and you're part of you're not a trendsetter. You're following a trend.
Right.
But enough to say, oh, that might help me, that might not.
I also think that, are you the type of person that it's like when you put something in your, when you think of something and you commit to something, you're there for the long haul, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I think of people that, just follow trends, is that they're vulnerable to everything and they don't actually commit to anything, right? But when you're putting your stake in the ground that says, hey, I'm going to be the trendsetter for this, whatever it may be, it's got to go to your heart. It's got to be morally and ethically right, but then that lies your intentions. What's your reason for doing it? And that's either going to show up or not, because if you're just going to do it for a short period of time, let it go. Well, okay. But if anything is going to be made out of a business, or, if it's going to be sustainable, it's got to go deeper than just some monetary value, or I'm going to get 100,000 likes off of this. Right.
Right. But you don't know either way how you're going to feel about it till you get started, period.
Right.
And I think getting started and seeing and then say, you know what? I did that on my list. Now I'm going to check that shit off. I mean, like you got to do that. You got to say, been there, done that.
But I mean, you can't have it both ways. And you said it right there, is that you're not going to know until you get started. But even getting started, if you're doing it correctly, you've got a backlog of time, thoughts, method, strategy.
But how are you going to know if you like a hobby unless you try the hobby?
Absolutely.
I mean, like doing jigsaw puzzles or playing games or whatever. You have to try to play the games or do the jigsaw puzzles or Sudoku or whatever it is.
Yep.
You've got to practice. You got to see, is this something that, jogs me, jives with me or whatever. So you tried things and it didn't work. You don't have to be all in and beat your head for a year to say, I'm going to do Sudoku and it doesn't work. I mean, and I'm just using that as generic, but I mean, since I was a little girl, my mom tried to teach me crochet, and I've done some blankets in crochet, but I'll tell you what, I've always still have a hard time starting that shit. Mm-hmm. I don't care how many pot holders, how many blah, 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 and it's just, you would think I would learn it. I don't have that desire. I have the desire that when it's set, I can just go. Yeah. So, but then what makes me do it? Oh, I got a grandbaby, needs a blanket, or I have a friend, I want to give this as a baby gift, or, something has to be greater than perpetually going to a something you don't really want to do, or you just don't have a knack for, whether it's sewing or whatever it is.
I also love where the actual proof comes out in the end. I mean, obviously a wedding was leave it up to guests and the bride and groom and their family members to determine how the event went, right? I mean, that's proof in itself. But also, though, how did you feel about it? And I find a lot of people that are following a certain look, or they're following a certain group of people, is that they're not they're not connecting to a deep degree in terms of who really is deeming that a success.
Well,
What I mean by that is that it doesn't matter if I thought it was successful. Me as being a perfectionist, I know I can always get better at my craft, right? But it's like, what did they say? What are they willing to go on video to declare?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back to the crochet thing. I mean, I may knit you the crooked ass scarf or the blanket, but when I say, "Hey, Brian, I made this for you and I'm not good at this," you're going to think, wow, she took time and effort to make something. Might look like shit because it's her first one out of, ever doing them. She's got to start somewhere. But then you start realizing the difference in the appreciation of where it came from and what were the intentions about doing that, making something or whatever. So again, but that person may say, I don't want to give that to him because I know it's crooked shit. And if he says it's not crooked, I'm like, he's lying to me. So, again, this comes down to the perception and perspective of the whole thing.
I mean, by you sharing that reminds me of going to a flea market or some kind of a farmer's market where they sell everything from knickknacks to socks, like 12 pairs of socks for $4 to, Amish made cookies to pies to whatever. But it's like that quilt or that blanket, one person's uneven is another person's another person's uniqueness, or that's what makes this blanket distinctive.
Right. And then you look at the purpose. Shit, that's going to keep you warm if you're cold. That's the bottom line.
I mean, it's like the backstory of the person. Maybe you grew up. Hey, Shannon.
Hi, Shannon. Nice to see you.
It's is that there's a story, there's a root there, right? Because if it was a matter of just buying a blanket, you could do that anywhere.
That's right.
But the reason why you bought this is because it takes a certain type of person that would want to go to a flea market with the traffic, the people, people might, you're going to see a bunch of stuff you might not want, but but you're open to things.
Right. So, so like I said, I mean, trendsetting could be just everything or anything that's flawed or not flawed or whatever, but it's just art could be so much flaws in a picture because you're like, shit, that's out of the lines or whatever. I mean, art, again, something could be trending because everybody thinks it's gorgeous, or the colors.
Also the one thing you just brought up is that a trend is perfectly imperfect. Because wherever the origin of it is, it's just this thing that popped on the scene. Obviously traffic, people being aware of it, I mean, when we look at modern day business today, like Airbnb and all these, it's like, wow, would I want to go to a hotel, or would I want to stay at somebody's house that I can help them pay their bills?
Well, like what's trending is back in the day, there was, hi, Andrea, I love you, girl. I can't wait to have you on my Live, Love, Laugh Out Loud show someday. But talk about trending is, I know that this song became popular because it annoyed so many people that what they did was they were like, Brian, listen to this freaking song. It's so freaking annoying, right? And it was the it's Friday song, right? And it had 1 million views. And if you took a vote, you'd find out a lot of people didn't like that song. Right. But what do people do when they don't like things that they don't like? They have to share it. It's just like if you taste a terrible jelly bean, what do? Brian, taste this. Can you believe
that this jelly bean was like earwax?
And I've seen this so many times that people are like, hey, Brian, this is a really good jelly bean. You want it? And then they taste it. They go, oh, yeah, I thought that was yucky too. Like, people are just creatures of, So again, trend is a trend, and we can trend whatever. But the bottom line is what we make it be to us personally.
Right.
And like the news, like I don't watch the news. There's news that's trending that it can be so negative and so terrible. And then it would just, because I'm an empath and I'd empathize with things, and it would just bring my health down to my core and make me ill. And I was like, I can't be trending this stuff because I don't get nothing done, you know?
Well,
So be careful what you follow, because it will affect you.
Well, and obviously for a trend to live, it's got to be fueled by attention, sharing, money, whatever it is, right? But like for us to be trendsetters, time, attention, focus, money, you know, whatever you fuel is what it's going to become, you know? And so it's kind of like bad habits, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want those bad habits, well, then stop giving it attention, stop giving it fuel.
Yeah.
How do you put out a fire? Remove the oxygen.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you get in better shape? Stop eating cookies late at night.
Yep.
Stop fueling that urge.
Absolutely. I know. It's like I want to lose this 100 pounds and I'm only losing I think 10 pounds a month, and I got or 1.5 pounds a week. And I'm like, that's a lot of freaking weeks and months, but hey, next year I'll look different than I do this year. And that's if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Even though my dad thinks I should just go and get liposuction, but whatever. The next thing, I think I'll shut it up though. I haven't asked him, but I think the next thing I would say next time he brings up, Dad, you got the $10,000? What do you mean? And I think I said that once, and he goes, well, go get a loan. I would be like, no, you want it from me so much, you give me the money to get it done. Mm-hmm. He'll shut him right up and go, never mind.
No, never mind.
It's like your kids when they got money and you take them to the store and you're like, you want to buy this? They're like, you want this? Are you going to buy it for me? No. Well, then I don't want it.
Exactly.
Same thing. So I had to do that too.
Well, that's a trend right there. It's like, if we ask mom 4 times, she says no, but we know dad's a pushover. Well, guess what? Guess how it shows up?
Yeah, for sure.
And and then all of a sudden when dad says no, then it's new muscle memory. This has never happened before. We're going to be denied something we wanted.
Yeah. Well, still 80 years old. My dad knows he don't want to piss me off because I get really quiet. This is like, I still remember this from 3 years old. It's like, what's the matter? I'm like, I won't even talk to him. He's like, and then all of a sudden he comes around like, do you want something? It's like such a cat and mouse, man. So I don't care if you're 5 or 55, man. It's just a shit when you're at your parents' house. It sits there, man.
Yeah. So what are your final thoughts for today? We're going to wrap up here. We're coming.
Final thoughts are realize that a lot of things in life are a trend, and seasons and styles and what the craze is and supply and demand. And so trending doesn't necessarily mean that you need to get on that bandwagon and just be a sheep.
Yep.
Just be mindful of where are you now. It's just like people that sign up for courses or do things. They may sign up for it now, but they don't have any use for it. They're just getting it for on sale for later or whatever. Right. Find your purpose to repurpose and make your own trends on your time schedule. Mm-hmm. Because no matter what, so if you used to hear about white pants, wearing white pants only through September, you can't wear them after September or after whatever the hell, who gives a shit? What happens is if you don't like to wear white, then you want to wear it in the winter or whatever, you realize that you stand out then. And maybe you're making a new trend to, it's just like breakfast used to be for breakfast, right? Now they're freaking, hello, IHOP brought breakfast pancakes in the evening. Yep. Like, no shit. They trended that. They made that okay by opening
breakfast pizza.
Breakfast pizza. Yeah. Leftovers for breakfast. That's me. I mean, like, whatever. So again, it's whatever flows with you. And, as time changes and you get older and things like that, and you can't do things a certain way, you find another trend to do whatever you want, but make it what you want to do. Don't follow everyone else and regret following everyone else. Find the peace and happiness of doing it at your time and your pace without being rushed.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we look at the world today. It's like, I think I mentioned on this show is that curbside delivery. That's been, there's a certain big box store, based out of Bentonville, Arkansas. We could guess who that is. That had curbside pickup 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
before what we're dealing with now, right?
Oh yeah.
And so now it's like, because the microscope wasn't on it, it was just an added thing, right? But now it's like, that's like, people change their whole lives and they get to save their shopping list online, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that there's a microscope because it's needed, now it's the thing, right?
Right.
And if they had that 5 years ago, but now it's like, ooh, they offered that service. Well, or even like, even for the airlines to acknowledge that they clean their planes now. Like, you never put it in your literature before that every time you fly with us, we're going to have a clean seat.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's all the trending buzzwords that people want you to pay attention to.
Correct.
And, these snacks don't have GMO. These snacks are fat free. They're keto free. I mean, shit. That would be a great thing to do research sometime, is actually go to Google and look at, like, from trans fats to no fats to lots of fats to no sugar to no, it's the same damn thing. They just reword it.
Well, those buzzwords, but then when you read the ingredients and like the scientific words that only a medical professional will know, it's like, this has got sugar right here.
Yep.
But it's just what everybody knows about cane sugar or, whatever.
Yeah. And I learned a long time ago, aspartame is something that messed up and really got my bones and arthritis, because I used to do Weeder's protein shake and raw eggs all the time. And that's why I'm pretty much crippled up now. I think a lot of people my age that ever did it, they probably went through the same hell I did. Anyways, enough of that. We will be back tomorrow. And I don't know, we want to do improv tomorrow? Yeah. Friday? No? Okay. We'll figure out what we're going to do tomorrow.
We don't got to guess. It's a summer, but we'll talk about something.
We'll get there. All right, you guys. You have a good one. Thank you,
everyone.
Brian.
Happy Thursday.
Appreciate you guys. Love you. Bye.